Imagine a routine piece of paperwork, the kind that gets renewed every few years almost automatically with barely a press release. Now imagine a government using that one piece of paperwork to flip 17 years of foreign majority control of its largest telecom company, without launching a tender, without a hostile takeover, and without a single share being purchased on the open market. That is not a hypothetical, that happened recently. And the mechanism behind it is worth understanding in detail because it is a genuinely replicable playbook, not just a one-off headline. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how this leverage mechanism worked, what it actually changes inside the company versus what stays the same, and why this matters far beyond one country's telecom sector. You will also get a clear-eyed view of what is confirmed fact here and what is speculation that has been circulating online without solid evidence behind it. Because that distinction matters enormously when a story like this starts spreading fast. Here is a question that quietly sits behind a lot of African finance ministries. A government privatized a strategic utility decades ago, sold a majority stake to a foreign operator in exchange for capital and expertise it didn't have at the time, and has watched that company grow for years under foreign board control. At some point, almost every government in that position asks itself the same thing. Is there a lawful, legitimate moment in this relationship where the leverage actually sits with us, not with them? For most governments, the honest answer has been no. Not without renegotiating the entire original contract from scratch, which foreign investors understandably resist. But there is one recurring moment in almost every one of these relationships that gets treated as a formality and rarely examined as a lever: the operating license renewal. Picture a negotiating room where one side has, for the very first time in the relationship, something the other side genuinely cannot walk away from. So what actually happened in this specific case? And how exactly did a license renewal become the highest leverage moment in a 17-year relationship? Let's walk through it. Key point 1. What actually happened mechanically? The country is Mali. The company is SOTELMA, operating commercially under the Malitel brand. In 2009, Mali sold a 51% stake in SOTELMA to Morocco's Maroc Telecom for roughly 275 million euros in a deal that was, at the time, presented as a model of African telecom privatization. Foreign capital and operational expertise in exchange for majority control. That arrangement ran for 17 years. Then SOTELMA's operating license came up for renewal. Rather than treating that renewal as the formality it usually is, Mali's government, led on this file by the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, restructured the negotiation around restored state control as a condition of agreement. The outcome, finalized this year, the Malian state's stake rose from 49% to 56%. Making it the majority shareholder in SOTELMA for the first time since privatization. The new operating license itself runs through 2039 and was secured as part of a package worth roughly 160 billion CFA francs, or about $277 million, paid as the license fee, not as compensation for the equity Maroc Telecom gave up. That distinction matters and is worth being precise about. This was not a free seizure of shares. It was a renegotiated package. Mali paid a substantial license fee, and as part of that same negotiation, the ownership split was restructured in the state's favor. Maroc Telecom remains a significant shareholder and partner, just no longer the controlling one. Key point 2. What boardroom control actually changes? The practical significance of crossing the 50% threshold is specific and worth naming precisely. With its increased stake, the Malian state now holds the right to appoint SOTELMA's managing director and its Chief Administrative and Financial Officer, the two roles that most directly determine how the company spends, hires, and invests. For 17 years, those decisions answered ultimately to Rabat. They now answer to Bamako. It is worth being fair to what the previous arrangement actually built, because that foundation is real, and the state is now inheriting it, not starting from zero. SOTELMA carries roughly 8.5 million subscribers and around 37% of Mali's mobile market, behind Orange Mali. That subscriber base, that tower network, exists because of investment made over those 17 years. The change here is not that something was destroyed and rebuilt. It is that the direction of future investment decisions has shifted from a foreign shareholder's return targets to the Malian state's own priorities. Key point 3. Part of a pattern, not an isolated move. This SOTELMA restructuring is not happening in isolation. Mali's government has applied a similar approach to other strategic sectors recently, including taking majority control of a major gold mining complex and beginning construction of a state majority gold refinery designed to process raw ore domestically rather than exporting it for refining elsewhere. The underlying logic in both cases is the same. Identify the point in an existing foreign investor relationship where the state has genuine leverage, a license renewal, a regulatory approval, a permit, and use that moment to restructure the terms in the state's favor rather than attempting an outright nationalization that would likely trigger costly legal disputes and frighten off future investment. It is worth being equally clear, however, about what is not yet confirmed. A wider regional integration story has been circulating alongside this deal. Claims about new cross-border fiber links, coordinated spectrum sharing across neighboring states, and a regional roaming framework already delivering free calls to travelers. Some elements of that broader regional cooperation are real and independently documented. Mali and Guinea did sign a fiber interconnection agreement, and Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have discussed coordinating radio spectrum along their shared borders. But that fiber agreement predates the SOTELMA deal by roughly 2 years and was a direct response to the West Africa submarine cable outages we covered back in video 8. It is not part of this transaction. And the regional free roaming framework that gets cited as already working has, according to independent telecom industry reporting, not yet been formally confirmed as operational, despite an original target date of January 2025. The honest picture is a government executing real specific leverage over one company's ownership structure, not yet a fully realized regional digital bloc, however much that ambition may exist on paper. So stepping back from this one deal, what should other African governments and anyone watching this trend actually take from it? Here's the bigger picture. Here is the strategic reframe I want every policymaker and investor watching this to hold on to. The real lesson of this deal is not that foreign telecom investment in Africa is now under threat, and it is not that governments can simply seize equity whenever they choose. The real lesson is narrower and more useful than that. Regulatory touchpoints that look like formalities, license renewals, spectrum reallocations, permit extensions, are not actually formalities. They are recurring moments where the state's negotiating position is, often for the only time in a decades-long relationship, genuinely strong. Most governments let those moments pass by treating them as administrative box ticking. Mali's government in this instance did not. That has real implications for how foreign investors structure long-term African telecom and infrastructure deals going forward, and for how African governments approach their own upcoming license renewal cycles. It also means that sweeping dramatic narratives about this single deal, whether the most enthusiastic geopolitical commentary or the most alarmist investor warnings, both risk missing what is actually specifically replicable about it. This was disciplined regulatory leverage, used at exactly the right moment, not a broader rupture in how Africa engages with foreign capital. So, what should African governments and foreign investors alike actually do with this lesson? Here are 5 takeaways. The practical takeaways. 1. Audit every upcoming regulatory touchpoint in foreign invested strategic assets, well in advance. License renewals, spectrum reassignments and permit extensions should be treated by finance and communications ministries as genuine negotiation moments, not administrative renewals to be rubber-stamped. 2. Distinguish leverage from expropriation, publicly and consistently. Mali's government structured this as a paid renegotiation, not a seizure. Governments pursuing similar strategies should be precise about that distinction in their own public communication, because conflating the two is exactly what damages investor confidence for the next deal. 3. Build the domestic technical bench before you need it. 17 years of foreign operational control means Mali's state now needs to rapidly scale up its own engineering and network planning capacity. Any government pursuing this kind of renegotiation should be investing in that domestic capacity well before the leverage moment arrives, not after. 4. For foreign investors, build renewal terms into the original deal structure. The lesson for Maroc Telecom and any operator in a similar position is that license renewal terms negotiated decades in advance with clearer automatic renewal provisions reduce exactly this kind of renegotiation risk. 5. Separate the verified deal from the viral narrative around it. This story has attracted significant commentary that goes well beyond what is independently confirmed. Anyone making policy or investment decisions based on this case should be working from the verified mechanics, the ownership shift, the license terms, the appointment rights, not from the more dramatic claims circulating about it online. Conclusion. A license renewal that most people would never think twice about became the moment 17 years of foreign majority control changed hands. Not through confrontation, through a government recognizing exactly where its leverage sat and using it precisely once, at the right moment. That is a genuinely useful lesson for African governments and foreign investors alike. It does not require the more dramatic framing this story has picked up online to be significant on its own terms. If this video helped you separate the real mechanism here from the noise around it, share it with one person in your network who works on infrastructure investment or regulatory policy. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.